every day I was in the gym, probably when I should have been studying. I was in the gym playing pickup ball every day for, I would say, probably 5-6 days a week for 4 years in college. I played pickup ball.
Wow.
And that was like, I loved that more than school, for being honest.
Yeah.
So, but who doesn't?
I can relate to that. Welcome everyone again to another episode of Basketball Nation PN presents Beyond the Athlete. And today we have a special guest, Josh Gotthelf, who is CEO of Dunk and co-founder of Dime Magazine. And if you guys don't know what Dime Magazine is one of the largest sports magazines, especially for basketball in the world. And if you don't know what Dunk is, we're going to find out a bit more about it today, amongst other things and other ventures that Josh is currently involved in as well. I have been following Josh for a while, and I've been following his work since we started speaking a few months ago, and it's inspiring. And there's no way I could not actually have him on this podcast to actually speak to you guys and myself. So as I'm learning as much as you guys are as well. And it's an honor to have him on the podcast. So welcome, Josh. Thank you for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Go on, sorry.
That was the nicest introduction I've ever received. So thank
you.
Really?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I've been improving on my introductions as well. So that's good to know. That's really good to know. Josh, obviously, it's amazing to have you on board. When I sent you an email, I didn't think you would reply, to be honest with you. So, because I've emailed some really power players within sports and just sports and basketball in general. I think I even emailed Adam Silver last week, but I actually got an email back from the chief communications officer saying, what you're doing is great, but unfortunately, this is not the right time. I was like, great, that's amazing that you didn't say no, which is like
you're on the radar.
Yeah. So I'm that kind of person, basically. I don't care or don't mind how high you are. I'll always still approach you, obviously in a respectful way. And the worst that I can get is a no. So here we are, which is great. It would be great to know, Josh. Obviously, you're involved in so many things. I've just seen the big news that you actually brought out yesterday, which is amazing, and we'll have a chat about that as well. But we want to know how you grew up, basically. What was your journey like from childhood to now? How did you even get involved in basketball as well?
That's a great question. So I love to highlight this one photo of when I was playing high school basketball, where I was wearing a pair of Jordan 5s that I somehow taught my parents. Somehow taught my parents to buy for me. And I call that the beginning of my journey. So I had, growing up in my room, I had Michael Jordan posters all over my room, right? Like I probably had 8 Michael Jordan posters. I think that was when I fell in love with the game, but also it was clear to me that the game was more than the game. It was, back then, and I'm obviously older than you, it was the Converse weapon commercials with Bird and Magic. It was, Dr. J and Bird in a video game. It was Nike releasing Jordan sneakers. It was Air Jordan. And so for me, the culture of basketball got on my radar really early as something that was fascinating. And I played, for as long as I can remember, up until this day. I've been playing, pickup forever. Everywhere and anywhere, there's always a pair of basketball shoes in my backpack, wherever I travel. So and it's
that's good.
Yeah, and it's about the game, but it's also about when you step on the court, it's like it doesn't matter what anyone's job is, what they do, how they grew up. You're all playing the game, and that's always been really special to me. And so that I've always had an emotional connection to the game of basketball and the culture and sneakers and I mean, even what I considered sort of loosely connected to the game in music and hip hop and you know, if you go to my childhood home, I still have like, you know, Run DMC records, right? So
nice.
on vinyl from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was always just, you know, people connect to different things, and I was connected to the game of basketball and the stories and the culture and the sneakers and the music, and I never fell out of love with it.
Okay, and obviously you said you played. For what sort of levels did you play up to growing up?
No. Played very loosely. So I played high school up to high school basketball, but I played baseball in college.
Okay.
But still every day I was in the gym, probably when I should have been studying. I was in the gym playing pickup ball every day for, I would say, probably 5-6 days a week for 4 years in college. I played pickup ball.
Wow.
And that was like, I loved that more than school, for being honest.
Yeah.
So, but who doesn't?
I can relate to that because I think so. So basically, just a backstory. I was born in Nigeria. Moved over to UK, London when I was 12, and my love for basketball came from playing against my cousins in Nigeria because they were actually really good in secondary school, which is pretty similar to high school. And when I came here, the love grew basically to the point that, like you said, studies, when we had exams, I was pretty much in the park when I could be in revision classes. I was pretty much in the park.
It's
like, and when I think back at it now, like, maybe I should have gone the other way, but I don't regret it because that love just
maybe not because
exactly. So so I can definitely relate to that. And that, as much as I didn't ever make it to professionally or anything like that, I think what I'm doing now with my team is that we have kind of just created something that is completely new that you wouldn't think was ever possible. So as much as I'm not playing, I can also now use everything I've learned over the years, whether skill-wise or just observations of how basketball is, especially in the UK, and give that back to the young guys that are 13 to like 21 years old, and basically say this is different paths that you can actually take. As much as you want to go professional, you want to be a pro. First of all, what are you doing in your time to become a pro? Are you waking up at 4 a.m.? Are you training 3 times a day? Because there's guys out there that literally eat, sleep, drink basketball. Are you doing the same thing that they're doing? And a lot of them aren't, but it's not their fault because the resources aren't there. So now we're saying, okay, maybe our role is to provide the resources for them, provide the indoor gyms for them to play, provide the trainers to train them, and then also showing them another way beyond the athlete, which is why we started this podcast, that if you don't go pro, you can actually still create something, create your own space in the sport as well. Like I've done myself with my team, like you've done as well. So these conversations are very, very important because it will show a lot of the young guys who may not have access to someone like yourself, or someone like an Adam Silver, should I say, or someone like Dennis Page from Slam Magazine, but be able to hear them in this conversation. So that connection with myself to yourself is also the connection for them as well. So this also leads to my next question in terms of, whilst you were growing up, how did the idea of even starting a magazine like Dime come into play? What inspired that basically? What triggered it? And also on the back of that, what is your why?
My why. So at a very simple level, and it was myself and 2 co-founders. We started Dime for ourselves in a way. We believe that's the why. We believe that we weren't being served. Now there was a basketball magazine at the time, but it was really heavily on court content, uniforms, points, rebounds, assists, that kind of stuff. And it was for it was written in a voice for young teens, and say 12 to 16. And so that combined with the fact that there was one light bulb moment, and we were playing pickup every day, myself and my two co-founders. There was a light bulb moment where we went into, we were in the city in New York. We went to a bookstore, we went to a few newsstands, and we saw 15 skateboarding magazines, right, all over the place. And we saw this one basketball magazine, and we had outgrown it, right? We were in our early 20s, and we were like, it's just for kids. It doesn't really speak to us. So we said, we had any business starts with a thesis, right? We think this is a business. And then you explore and you try to figure out if there's actually a product market fit. And so we did that research, and we said, hey, you know what? We believe there's a fit to our theory. Was the game of basketball is not just a game, it's a culture. It is
exactly.
It's the game, it's the personalities, it's the music, it's the sneakers, it's the fashion. And we said, what if there was a basketball magazine that didn't show players in uniform, no uniforms, and it was written for 18 to 24-year-olds, right? And so we did position ourselves as a competitor to the existing magazine that was out there. We positioned ourselves as a graduate, that you graduate from that one to this one as you get a little bit
this
older.
one,
And this is the business lesson. The first business lesson I learned was we wrote up a business plan. We made a mock first issue, and we took it to a big publishing company. And because we were young, we didn't know to start our own startup. We said, we got this idea, let's go get it made by a publishing company. And so walked into that meeting, had a nice, conversation, and we pitched essentially. And at the end of the meeting, the publisher, CEO of this publishing company, which had 5 or 6 magazines in its portfolio, looked me in the eyes and said, this is never going to work. Nobody cares what basketball players do when they're out of their uniforms.
Yeah.
And we just respectfully said, okay, thank you for your time. And that could have been a moment where we shut it down and said, no, but we actually said, you know what? We're going to do this. We're just going to do it on our own. And we did it. And we put out the first issue with Allen Iverson on the cover. He was really funny. People always ask, how'd you pick Allen Iverson for the first issue of Don? The honest answer is there was never a second choice. We said it's Allen Iverson or nothing. It has to be him. He defines the entire culture of the game. He is everything that the new basketball is. Yeah. And so we put out that issue, and the next thing that happened was we got a really good response, and the both from the consumers, but also and readers, but also from partners. And within a couple months, brands like Adidas were supporting us, were advertising, and then we had a business.
How did that process come about, even getting Allen Iverson on the cover? Like, because that's not a small task. There definitely is a process, and I'm sure there was challenges along the way getting that. But it would be great to kind of hear. You don't have to say the full length, but
no, I'm happy to give sort of philosophy, and it's true to everything I do, and I think hopefully we'll speak to some of your younger listeners. Is whenever you're trying to ask somebody for something or do business with somebody, you want to get into their seat and say, all right, what would matter to them? What would help them? Right. So in this case, getting Allen Iverson meant working with Reebok, because that was the way to get, that was who could benefit from Allen Iverson on the cover. And so Reebok helped us make it happen. And they connected us with an incredible photographer named Gary Lands, who I would say you might want to have on this podcast one day. He has shot
Right. Okay.
Gary
It's like you
Lands shot
skipped my questions. That's normally always my last few questions, but anyway, it's fine. So Gary
No,
Lands, I
because
remember that.
Gary he was I think the only photographer who Iverson would work with for a long time. He's
Wow.
phenomenal. So we
Wow.
got to Reebok, we got to Gary, and we were able to get some really beautiful Allen Iverson images, and that
Amazing.
defined, that was our brand. We put it out, and it was. And again, I don't know how much of the history your audience might know, but when we put Iverson on the cover, um, there was some pushback in those days about players and tattoos, right? Things like
Yes,
that. So
yes,
when
yeah.
Iverson, right? So when Iverson was on our cover, full of tattoo, like that was a statement we wanted to make, that we're here to support that. We're here to support players being themselves.
And now that you're quite experienced and established within the industry now, at the time, obviously you had a lot of pushback. You kind of created a new culture for people to see and be a part of as well with Dime. What does that look like now in terms of you being at Dunk as well? And I think you started also designing sneaker. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Ethics? Or
That is, Ethics is one of my most passionate projects. So Ethics is owned by NBA player Langston Galloway and his wife, Sabrina.
okay. Oh wow, amazing.
And
Okay.
so it is 100% founded by them, 100% owned by them,
Yeah.
player owned, Black owned business. And it's incredible, and it's amazing to see how they've not, it's not so much the idea, it's the execution, the way they've executed the brand at such, and the product at such a high level. It's not easy being able to, and they have an incredibly talented, designer in Brett, and being able to make a sneaker that, like, right out of the box can go on an NBA court is not easy. That you can just take it out of the box and you're playing in an NBA game with no additional specs required. Sometimes when this is a little inside that knowledge that people might not know. When you see NBA players on the court, sometimes they've got special construction of their shoes from the shoe companies. It's not the same shoe you would buy online or in a sneaker store. It's got some special construction. Ethics is the exact same shoe. Same shoe Lang wears on an NBA court is the same shoe you get if you place an order. And it's been incredibly rewarding to be part of that journey and see how they're building like a real challenger brand in a space that doesn't have a lot of challenger brands.
That's quite unique. So it really shows that you still have your hands and your talents with a lot of the players now as well, in sports specifically. How have you fostered those relationships, especially with a lot of the players that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah, I think whether it's an NBA player or just another professional or another brand, the key is always to look through the lens of what value can I bring. And so I always try to look through the lens of what can I do that can help, not just it can't be a blind, sort of, hey, I'd love to get involved. Well, those can be hard to wrap your hands around and figure out what the next step is, versus hey, here's where I think there might be something here that I can add value to what you're doing. And so I think you had mentioned a little bit earlier that at Dunk we're now working with Tracy McGrady and his partner Jeffrey on One's basketball league. And what was yes, it's an amazing concept and it's disruptive, and Tracy McGrady is a legend. Right, like unstoppable, one of the best ever. But that's not enough. There had to be a what do we bring to the table, and what we bring to the table at Dunk is 200 million video views a month. And so what we said is, hey, we can help get the word out on this amazing thing you're building, and we can make sure that OBL and one-on-one basketball and TMAC as a entrepreneur are all celebrated, and we can get the word out on that. And so that's where we're bringing something to the table that adds value.
I think that's so interesting, because partnership is such a big thing that I've been learning personally from my mentor, and also from my wife as well. And we talk about this every single day. Partnership is amazing when you can do things yourself, but so partner with, because they're doing something completely different. It opens your mind to more possibilities that you may not have thought about yourself also. And what was it about OBL that really stuck with you, that you said that you thought, and the team as well thought, wow, we need to do something together with these guys? Obviously, you talked about the value of the 200 million views per month, but then there's something behind that brand that stuck with you, that was in line with what you guys are also doing at Dunk, that made you make that decision. What was that?
So what if you start at the top, just being totally honest, when TMAC does anything, you pay attention. Right? And so
that's true.
that was at the top. Said, okay, TMAC's involved. Then here's the real key. The real key is a lot of sort of the older generation of sports executives and media. They're still of the world where you sit down on your couch and pick up a remote control, right? Now, teenagers don't do that. They don't sit on the couch, pick up a remote control and say, let me see what's on tonight. They are on their phone and
scrolling.
What we saw with OBL is a fast-paced, lots of action, easy to digest game that translates really well to meeting the audience where it is, right? It's this idea of like, are you pushing to market something, or are you just like, people are at Dunk, they're on their phones to consume content just like OBL. So we're just giving them what they're there for. It's they're if you ask a 14-year-old like, hey, did you see LeBron's dunk last night? The answer is probably yes, but on my Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. It's not yes, I sat and watched the whole game, because that's probably not what happened.
That's true. And yeah, you're absolutely right, because especially when I speak to a lot of the young guys, a lot of them, when we for 3 hours for 18 plus euros, I used to do it for 16 plus, but now 18 plus, and we tend to have an average of 50 young guys come down to play for 3 hours, 5-on-5 basketball. Not like without to the point that I have to turn people away, because when we started, like halfway through when we started, I think like the first 6 months in, we used to have about 70 to 80, and that was just too much. So imagine 70 to 80 in one gym, one court, not multiple courts. The amount of heat that's in there, the floor gets slippery. A lot of people start to complain because they don't get enough playing time. So, okay, let me streamline this down. So we created a structure for that, basically. And a lot of this consume content. So, for example, now we have 5 videographers and maybe 2 photographers that come to our sessions, taking content for the whole session, but then we also highlight different players as well during that day, and then we create content for them and then post on our page, and then they and then we collaborate with them on their social media. So it supports them in terms of what they're doing basketball wise, in terms of their showcasing on social media, but then also enables us to be exposed to their following as well. And people that may not know about us, but they get to know us through them, basically. So that content is so key. So what you guys have now with OBO is going to be super crazy. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that is going to become. I think it's going to blow a lot of things off the rails, definitely. So, and I've been a fan of it since I've been listening to T-Mac from when he started it, and I've been a fan of it, and I think it's an amazing idea because I feel like basketball right now needs to innovate. It's all good sticking to the same thing for over 75 years plus globally, but then now people want something different. You have, like with the one-on-one, you have a lot of players that are highly skilled one-on-one. You're talking about people like Jamal Crawford, Lou Will, all this type of players, Tracy McGrady, Iverson, like across the years, that if they had something like this, it would be amazing. So guys now that make it to the NBA still have an opportunity to still make it big in a league like that as well. So it's quite interesting. But there is something I'm also working on similar, not one-on-one, but mine is a bit more crazy.
Crazy is good. That's how great things happen.
I can definitely tell you about it offline amongst other things as well. But my next question is going into, because you spoke about content and especially a lot of the younger generation, that is what they consume. So my next question is around grassroots. How important is grassroots within the sport of basketball right now? And do you have any effect in grassroots in basketball, especially in the USA as well?
Yeah, so I'll answer the last part first. So one of my my portfolio, and I have a marketing and brand studio business that gets involved in startups on this side.
Okay.
And so one of my portfolio companies is called Point 3. You've probably seen the basketball shorts with the towel on the side that you can dry your hands.
Yeah.
So Point 3 is very successful in the grassroots space and outfits about 2,000 teams with uniforms and gear. Wow. So when you ask, what's my relationship to the grassroots space, it is there, and also on the ethics side. Ethics does work with some teams to provide shoes. I have a excuse me. I have it's a passion point to me. I think there's at least here in the US, there's a growing challenge where opportunity is becoming connected to money on the grassroots side. And we're seeing kids who have the resources to have trainers and shooting coaches and strength and conditioning coaches have more opportunity to advance faster. And so I think we have a challenge and an ethical obligation to do what we can to level that playing field so that the kids who have the money aren't getting the most opportunities. So that's I love grassroots basketball.
Yeah.
I would love to see those training and coaching opportunities.
Yes.
Really fair and level is what I would say would be my wish for the game.
Okay. Grassroots has been really, really important to me. It wasn't something that I ever thought about before. But it actually, I think when I found what my why was, that's when I realized that the younger generation, not excluding my generation or anyone above me, but the younger generation are the ones that are coming up. So when they get to where I am, they need to be better. So which also means I need to be scaling as well, pretty much. So I've always found that quite important. So when I started Basketball Nation was pretty much to help people. but it's evolved into more than that. It's more of a community now. It's more of, and not just a community in the UK, but a global community, because we have guys in Scotland, we have 3 guys in Germany who are pretty much part of us. We may not see them all the time, but we speak all the time, and they're involved in everything we do online, everything we do in the group chats, etc. With your ventures, from being part of Dunk, Dime Magazine, now your partnership with OBL, what's your plans, if you have any already in place, to be more of a global brand as well? Are you fostering relationships globally, whether that's in the UK, whether that's in South America, Europe, Africa? What does that look like?
That's a great question. So at Dunk, we do have a pretty strong international audience.
Okay.
But along those same lines, I would say we haven't totally exhausted our growth in the US, not even close. So it's on the business side, it's always a question of where do you grow? And so and it's the same, you know, at Ethics, we have a lot of fans and customers internationally. There's always this, whether it's Dunk or Ethics or Point 3, there's always a you can only do so much in terms of making sure you don't spread yourself too thin. It's so absolutely the international opportunities for the game of basketball are incredible. And now a huge organization like the NBA and the WNBA, I love to see how they're approaching international. They have the resources to go wide that smaller brands don't totally have. But yes, their international is always on the roadmap. It's just a question of when, because you never want to do anything and not do it well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I will also say, if this is, I don't want to say it's a tip from me, but
Please.
the way I've really seen it is that I may not have that much resources now to be international, but what I have is community. Community is the breeding ground for people to actually be partners with you and actually grow a vision and ideology that you've created to expand that community, basically. And one thing that I feel like we've done well without even knowing was building that community with guys in Scotland. So we met these 3 young boys. One of them is a content creator with 50K followers. We just started talking on Instagram, never met before. We had an event, flew them down to come down for the weekend, put them in a hotel. They got to meet the rest of the family here, got to play some basketball, got to do some content in the garden as well, posted it on the social media. And each of those videos, I think one of them got 1 million views on his page. And then the other ones are just under like free. One of them is about 440K now. Another one's about 500K. So like they did really well. So people now think he's a millionaire because of the
I love
house.
it.
So since then, him and the other 2 guys have been really pushing that community aspect that they've seen here in Scotland. And now they're building their own little community based on here. So now we're calling that Basketball Nation Scotland, basically, because of that. Without any resources, without any resources or anything like that, we've been able to create that. So I think community might be a huge way to actually build that global network as well. So I've just ranted so much about that, but because I'm so passionate about it, and I know that it's so important.
You're 100% right. I think people sometimes get so into this idea of growing at scale that they forget what you just said. Is I couldn't agree more. 100 people in a community can be more valuable than 10,000 people who kind of care a little bit. So I love that approach.
Okay, thank you. So my next question would be, because when I look at your social media page and just how we're speaking now, you seem like someone that is very active, very up tempo. I would say always smiling. um, what inspires you basically? How do you find inspiration around you to even be able to think creatively and do the things that you do?
I love that question. The answer is everywhere. The answer is I am open to the idea that an idea or inspiration could come from going down the street to grab a cup of coffee, come from playing pickup ball, which by the way, the TMAC OBL dunk partnership led from a guy that I've been playing pickup ball with for 15 years.
That's crazy.
Now, and it's funny, you play, and I'll give him a shout out. His name is Chris. If you play ball with somebody, and let's say they're a jerk, they can only hide it for so long, right? On the court. If someone's a jerk on the court, it'll come out. Now, you play with someone for 15 years and you learn that's a good guy. And we never did business before. And then one day we were talking. It was like, oh, light bulb. We should try to do that together. And it led to an introduction to Jeffrey and T-Mac and OBL. So the answer to your question is just like eyes always open. Creativity and learning and inspiration is both active and passive, right? Active in the sense that you have to be actively open to like meeting people and talking to people and looking for ideas. And I'll always take pictures of things wherever I am and say like, that's cool how they did that. I wonder if we can translate it to what we're doing. And so that's the active part, and the passive part is just sort of letting those things also happen, but being open to them all the time and experiencing things, right? Whether it's traveling or jumping on the subway in New York City, like you don't know where ideas are going to come from. You don't just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to think of an idea. At least for me, that's not how it works. It works by being out.
I love that. And it's I wanted people to hear that because I think people always think that finding inspiration has to be in such a big place that you have to get into, but sometimes it could be the most simplest thing around you that you do every single day. For me, sometimes going for walks helps me. I could be listening to a podcast or listen to music helps me. Sometimes even just maybe calling one of the young guys and just having a conversation with him, just trying to see, okay, how's things with you? What are your plans for today? How are you training? What are you working on? And just from that, it could just create something in my mind like, oh, right, okay, maybe I can create this, or maybe I can do this as well. So you're absolutely right that inspiration is everywhere, which is great. Right, so before I go into my non-basketball questions, I actually want to ask, in terms of social media, digital and online is quite huge right now in the world. How much of an impact would you say on your side, from your perspective, is having, especially with viewers? You spoke about the 200 million views every month, etc. But I really want to know how yourself and your team are really tapping into that opportunity to grow socially as well, whether it's on Instagram. I'm not sure if you use TikTok and other mediums as well, basically. And this is for Dime Magazine and also Dunk also.
Yeah. So just to be totally clear, I want to make sure you know, Dime, my partners and I sold in 2015. And so, which
because every research I did, it still says that you're.
I'm so you're always the co-founder. I'm just not a CEO anymore. So we sold it. We sold it to a great group at Up Rocks Media, and they make amazing content, and they've rolled it into their family of music and now basketball content. And so they're, you know, it's in really good hands. So on the dunk side, how we think about it is it's important to have a consistent voice, a consistent brand, but still know that there's some there are some differences between the platforms, and what you put on Snapchat and what you put on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube are going to be a little different. Now TikTok is our fastest growing of those. We're at 10.5 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
And that's a monster. We're at now about 2.8 million on Instagram and 350,000 on YouTube, 150,000 on Snapchat. And their intricacies, each is a little different, but you have to have a consistent voice, and you have to watch you have to watch the data, you have to watch the analytics, you have to look at, what works. Like on Instagram, is it, it might be reels and video this month, and then next month photos are doing better. And
okay, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, you want to be pretty deliberate about that, and it moves really fast. So if you're a brand, and you see some brands struggle with this, if they're planning their social way out, sometimes things don't perform that great. You have to be pretty nimble.
Okay. What would you say the 5 most important things are to you in life, work, experience? Just 5.
Wow, 5 things. So, family always one. And I'd say living, number 2 would I'd say I try to live kindly every day, if that's a phrase. It is, if you can put everything through the lens of, am I being kind? And that can apply to personal and business, and if you're playing pickup, but it applies to everything. It's funny how that one word of kindness can translate across everything. And it's sort of all encompassing. And so, with that, I would say, trying to do good, like feel like the things that I put out into the world are good, but then, and so maybe that's number 3. And then number 4 is, also to keep feeling passionate about things, right? And passion could be, could be family, it could be spending a day with T-Mac, which is one of those, like, you pinch yourself and you say we're doing business together, but that's still T-Mac. And
I'm pinching myself for the fact that I'm speaking to someone that knows him, so I'm pinching myself.
He's on a level that I'm, that's we're not on the same level. And then, but that passion, for me translates to, if I'm in the gym working out, or I try to be deliberate about everything I do.
Good, I like that.
I feel like it's important to me to be deliberate, to be passionate, to have some reason for everything I'm doing, and that's personal and professional.
No, I like that. I like that. Being deliberate and intentional is very key. I like that. Right. So my next question is, do you have a question for me?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I would love to know, and I view this as an opportunity to learn, what are the differences in, like, basketball and the culture, from London and over here in the US?
To be honest with you, there's not much difference, because basketball right now is the 2nd most played sport in the UK. But you would never know that, because there's not a lot of resources being put into it. This is my personal opinion for anyone watching. I feel like the resources that we've had over time haven't really been put into the right things. No one really focuses on the young players or the players in general. They focus on what's the word now? They focus on pretty much how the sport is expressed to the rest of the world. So things like coaching, which is great, but is that something that needs to be sorted out now or later? Because there are great coaches, but no one's actually looking for them. So I think one of the main things that needs to be completely different is that we need to establish our own culture. And I've said this to quite a few people, and a lot of people have disagreed. Because where I feel like UK basketball is a copycat culture right now. So we're looking at what is being done in the States, and we're trying to do it here. But it's never going to work because the resources are different. The infrastructure is different as well. So we need to create a system and a culture in here that is completely different to that. Sorry, there's a massive butterfly in here right behind me as well. That is crazy. So I live in like a forest, so you get to see a lot of these bugs come in here pretty much. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much the difference. And the players are really talented. You get a lot of heavily talented players here. So there's a 20-year-old kid, I don't want to call him a kid, but 20-year-old kid that I met in the park recently. He just came over from Caribbean, and 6'5", super leaper, can shoot, can pass the ball really well. I think his strength is being able to pass, but dunks on everyone that he meets at the rim, pretty much. And someone like him now, he's not on a team at the moment. He's not. He doesn't have. No one in the States has seen him play. There's no teams in the UK that have actually seen him play, have actually offered them anything at all. So I think the difference, I would say, is the system and the resources. That's the only difference. But the talent-wise, we have just as much talent as the US does, definitely.
Interesting.
But yeah.
And you said he's 20. That the kid you're just talking about. That's a great differentiator. A player of that talent would never get unnoticed to age 20 here in the US.
Exactly. Some of them will be in the NBA or playing in G League or actually playing pro somewhere else. So that's yeah. And there's no pretty much a pathway from juniors to professional as well. So a lot of the juniors here would either go to States and play high school, maybe play college, and then come back and maybe play for a pro team here if they can't make it in Europe or the NBA. So this is always kind of like the last stage for them coming back here to play pro. So yeah, but I believe that if I'm definitely going to change all of that. That's my vision, to actually change all of that, because one of the reasons why I started Basketball Nation was to help the younger generation to grow into something that was completely different to what it is now. So something I'm working on establishing is, as much as I run the community, there are other few communities around the UK as well. So I actually wanted to create an association of basketball communities for us to actually undertake the issues that the British Basketball Federation are currently struggling with now. So let's come together and actually create an alternative structure that could eventually work and take over that, and will show them, listen, this is the best way to do it, and it's working. So bringing those minds together of guys that have played like me, that never made it or did make it, maybe high school, college, etc., but are really passionate about growing the game, especially from a grassroots level and beyond, to actually come together and create that association, which is also a think tank to create a better system for UK basketball. It might not be overnight, but it will take some time, but that's the way it needs to be now. We just need to crash everything and start over again, my opinion.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's the plan. Right, so this question is an interesting one.
Okay.
Start, bench, trade.
Okay.
Michael Jordan, LeBron, Kobe.
Oh, it's pretty easy for me. Wait, hang on. So here's what I'm going to do. It's really interesting because I believe LeBron is the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. But
amazing. Okay.
now I'm a data guy. So you're telling me start bench was a start bench cut? I do have to cut or trade. I unfortunately have to trade Kobe, but that's no knock on him. I mean, it's just,
of course,
it's just the other two. Now, statistically speaking, I have to start MJ just because, right? The data says he wins more, right?
Yeah,
that's what the data says. That's what the data says.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win a game. So I start MJ. I bench LeBron, but I would say LeBron is the GOAT in my opinion. It's just the numbers in the scenario you gave me mean I got to start MJ to win the game.
Yeah, LeBron's the GOAT for me as well. So yeah, and I grew up watching Kobe and LeBron. So yeah, so LeBron's the GOAT, but Kobe's a great player, and Kobe's still in my heart, basically, 100%.
Yeah, I was lucky enough at Dime to work with Kobe on a few occasions, and people ask, how was it? He was the ultimate pro. It was like it was such a smooth working business transaction every time. It was flawless how seriously he took his business when we worked with him. It was an awesome experience.
That's amazing. I wish I had the opportunity to meet him, but I've met people like yourself. When I was at university, my coach, John Ollinger, who used to work for Nike, I actually met him quite a few times as well because he worked in marketing for Nike. So he actually played in the UK as well, and the same team as me in Coventry. So which is quite cool. I still speak to him now as well, so we still have a relationship, which is great. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And then my final question is, if you had to recommend someone that you would introduce to come onto this podcast, who would it be? You've mentioned one person already, but I think now you have to mention someone else.
Oh, I have so many. I would say actually one of my down co-founders, Pat Cassidy. Pat would be just an awesome guest because he met. And he usually was at the shoots, so he probably has a million great stories about players. But then he also went and he headed up New Balance basketball for many years. So he did all of that stuff. He's great. I also have a lot of love for the photographer Jonathan Mannion. So if you could ever get Jonathan on here, he is incredible. So he shot a lot of our covers for Don. But the reason that we reached out to him and were attracted to his work is he shot most of Jay-Z and Eminem and everybody else's album cover. Any album cover that means anything in the last 20 years he shot, he would be an incredible, and he's just such a genuine person. He'd be an incredible guest. Who else? I mean, Shaq. Shaq's always.
I would love to have Shaq on here, but how can I make that happen?
You know what? I think you have the same philosophy as me.
Yeah.
The worst that can happen is a no. You never know.
Yeah, that's true.
If you reach out, and I've had some, again, a few interactions with Shaq, and he's always been just great.
Yeah.
Just great and funny, really funny.
Yeah.
I actually have a great. So Shaq, we were in the same gym, and I was playing, and he was kind of just messing around, and he was playing like a little 3-on-3 with some of the guys, just messing around, and we saw each other, and we had met at a couple shoots, and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" He said, "I want to reach out to you about some business. You have a card on you." I said, "It's down in my locker. I can get it after the next game." He said, "All right. Cool, go get it after the next game." My team lost. I go down. I get the business card. I give it to Shaq. He looks at it, and he knew my first name, but I think he just saw my last name on the card. He looks at it. He goes, "All right, shalom, my brother."
Shaq
he put together at that moment that I was Jewish, and he was like, "Hey, shalom, my brother."
Yeah, Shaq is funny. I watch his podcast as well. It's so good. It's so good.
He's great, and just
Yeah.
again, great. He was great to work with a few times
Mm.
that we work with him. So I mean, it's an endless list of people who I think would be great for you to talk to.
Yeah.
Baron, I would say Baron Davis would be a great guest for you.
Oh yeah.
Baron has just this incredible combination of being an elite like player, obviously, but also a really elite, investor and businessman too.
Okay.
Which is he's really like transitioned super successfully. So I think he'd be a great person for you to talk to.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. You give me a whole list of people to get in touch with now, so which is great. Another person I had on my list was Andre Godala. I actually found this email on LinkedIn, so I actually got in touch, but I haven't got replies, but I'm gonna chase that up. So yeah, it's a great list to have.
he's a great guy.
Yeah, definitely. But Josh, this has been an amazing conversation. I know there's so much more that we could talk about.
We can do it again sometime.
We can definitely do it again. But I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure everyone else has been able to learn from this conversation and take so much nuggets away also, especially myself. But I appreciate you coming on, and definitely will stay in touch, and also speak soon when you're in London. Please come over, dinner, lunch, wherever it is, we'll be here. Myself and my wife will be happy to have you, and your family if you're with them also as well. It'll be amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. This has been awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm going to take you up on that offer and see you in London.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you everyone for watching. This is Boss Nation presents Beyond the Athletes. Please let us know what you think of the show. Any questions in the comments, write them down below. And yeah, we'll be in touch and see you guys soon. Peace.